everyone, it's Laura Myers and Venus Tamturk for CMS-Connected. We are joined by Loren, the CMO of Progress. We had to attend her keynote this morning and it was so fantastic. She had some great customer stories in there too, which we interviewed a few customers today as well. So I would really like to hear from you, like the vision and the strategy of Progress moving forward as you see it.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. So, I talked about some of these things in my keynote, but we're seeing, because of some of the technological changes out there with big data, some of the technology changes with the ability to have sensors in everything we do, that the amount of data, both from sensors and from human behavior, is so massive. There's a tremendous opportunity for organizations today to harness that and with cognitive capabilities, use it to help define our environments. In my keynote, I talked a little bit about the future of the interface is no interface, right? And the capability that we have today to create experiences that are offline interactions and experiences in our daily lives that are driven by digital, but not an interface-driven experience, so not an interaction with a GUI. That's really the future, and applications, including web applications, are all becoming cognitive. And so, we believe that at Progress, we believe that in the web experience management space, in the digital experience management space, that not only will machine learning help drive things like personalization, which we're doing today, driving segments and recommendations based on content determined by machine learning, but that cognitive is going to drive the future of all kinds of experience applications, even in the background, right? Orchestrating everything that happens. Some of it is digital and some of it is not. So that's really the vision that we have, and hopefully what we were able to convey in some of the keynotes today.
Yeah.
There has been lots of conversation and excitement around personalization. During your keynote, you were talking about that as well. Like the technology is out there, but actually for so many companies, it hasn't been taken off. So why is that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the technology for personalization it's been there well over 10 years, right? I mean, at companies in the past, I was helping to sell this 10 years ago. And I think companies see the value of personalization, and they have for 10 years, right? They've seen that there is value in providing content that is contextual and more relevant to my user than one-size-fits-all content, right? That goes without saying. That's just intuitive. Yeah. But the challenge isn't in the technology or the desire. The challenge I've seen is really in how these things get implemented. I think, and I mentioned this in my keynote, I think people start thinking too big because personalization has very wide-ranging implications. It can involve stakeholders from across the business, right? And I think that organizations, when they think too big, find it hard to get a toe in the door and get started. So organizations that are able to build in more of a step-by-step manner. First, you have to start small, right? Define a set of personas and define a small set of personas, right? Don't boil the ocean. If you told me to define my personas, I could tell you 100 different personas, right? Yeah. But that's not the answer. The answer is to really start small, get a handful of personas, and determine what content is going to meet their needs and that you want to personalize. And just keep that a small use case. Then measure it, show success, and then do the next use case, and the next one, and the next one, and you can expand from there. Yeah. And so I find that companies that do that and then approach it very pragmatically are the ones that are able to show success and then build from there. And Vartzilla was a great example of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if there was, in terms of like multi-channel strategy, if a business is struggling with it, what tips do you have for their strategy that they could kind of really get going with it?
Yeah. So, multi-channel to most organizations today means mobile, right? And different form factor web. And I think that being able to design an experience that's engaging on mobile is important. But the most successful mobile initiatives are not about just another form factor web. The most high impact mobile initiatives are ones that use that channel to look at things from a really different perspective, to say, how can I have a different type of interaction with my users? And the Green Bay Packers is a great example. Yeah. They really started thinking about, how do I extend the reach of the game beyond the stadium to engage a new fan base? And they did that with game day features on their mobile web. And so really thinking about mobility and thinking about any channel and its potential for interaction that's different, and how you can extend your products and services using that, I think is a take-home that we can apply to any industry.
Yeah, and I like, especially with them, how they extended the experience, like through the use of mobile, they extended it into the real world with like the Packers bars and things like that.
Exactly.
And that, like that genius to think about taking it that next step was fantastic, and then seeing how they were able to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to go find a Green Bay Packers bar and hang out with like-minded people on game day, I can use my Packers mobile app to do that.
Of course.
And that's great. Brings the experience to those people not at the stadium. It's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the future of mobile web?
The future of mobile web. So the future of mobile web, I think, is becoming more of those use cases, right? I think the future of the mobile web is mobility as a channel becomes a part of the products and services we offer, and it becomes a extension to how we're able to interact. So I think it's really sort of that similar type of use case, but brought to other industries, right? Yeah. So mobile is something that's more personal. It's something that's with people at all times. It's something that can come into many different environments with the user. And so the ability to use mobile in these really interesting ways, that's really the future of mobile. And there are many other really interesting kind of interface types and experience types that whether it's augmented or virtual reality or voice and conversational interfaces, and these all have these really unique qualities about when and where and how we can use them. And the companies that are successful with all of these different types of channel types and different types of communication mediums are really just going to use those all in a way that's very tailored around the specific advantages of that medium.
It's kind of early days of voice-activated type of a conversation right now, but from the marketing perspective, do you feel like companies should kind of jump into that pool, or it is not for everyone? They have to understand what is the value in it for them.
I think it depends on your industry, right? I mean, some industries are already heavily in this space, right? I mean, we all talk to Siri in our car and get directions to places and find out what the weather is going to be tomorrow, and whatever, and you have your Alexa at home or your Google Home or whatever it might be, right? And so I think that depending on the industry you're in, this is very real today. And I think that voice is just going to be yet another type of interface and yet another type of communication that we have to embed in the processes for how we do everything, right? In the example I gave in my keynote of sort of the future of how we all get groceries delivered to our door, right? Which is sensors in my refrigerator know my food's running low, and then based on all the information and big data out there about me and my health needs and my food preferences and when I'm at home and when I'm not, the right food is automatically delivered to my door, right? That very well could involve a voice-based interface as well, right? They say, hey, Loren, you bought 1% milk last time, but, I know that usually you like whole. What do you want to do today? And so it's those sorts of things where voice is going to be just another touch point in all of these conversations. But really the future of channels is that, and I mentioned this, you have to think about not designing for a specific channel, but really designing for the user journey, right? The user is the one dictating the channel, and they may do the same process. I may do my grocery shopping using voice one day and not the next, right? And so I think that we just need to think about what the journey is, and then think about how we incorporate channels and optimize for those within those user journeys. And I think that's the future.
I think it's one of the challenges that marketers are facing because of multi-channel, like omni-channel type of campaigns. And right now we have so many different interfaces, so many different types of communications. So they're kind of struggling to keep up with all of them and sending the same message, but in different times, a different point of journey.
And you need a way to orchestrate that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that those systems of orchestration are going to become more important as we go, and those systems of orchestration are going to be cognitive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Thank you both
wonderful.
so much.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Perfect.